Hi, this is Gayle from BERNINA of Naperville, and today I'm going to have you shadow me a little bit while I do a super cute custom quilted panel. So yeah, we're cheating a little bit because we didn't piece together an entire quilt, but it's just a great way to learn how, in my kind of just get it done, just put it in there and make something technique can actually work. Now, I'm not a fusser, so I don't put the measurements of my quilt in there and then plan my quilt all from start to finish. I do it a little bit differently. It might not be for everyone, this technique, so fair warning, but it works for us. So it's a great way for a beginner to just tackle a new project. And then as you kind of get this technique down, you might see the benefits of planning the design for the entire quilt. But this is just like a little rogue mini lesson in getting started with custom quilting. So let's get started. So the first thing that I want to do when I'm creating a feather design that's going to go around a border and miter on these edges and everything is I drop markers down for my Q-matic system, and I do that relatively easily. So the first thing I'm going to do before I have my sew head talk to my machine is I'm going to put my laser light on so that I can see exactly my needle position right there. Then I am going to select my marker button on the machine or on the Q-matic software. And then you can see here that my screen on my machine has changed. And now I'm simply going to come down as far as I can go here with my sew head, and I'm going to put it right in the crease where that border is, right there in that ditch. And I'm going to hit set. Then I'm going to go across the street, right to the edge of the fabric, and set again. Then I'm going to go all the way to the corner, hit set, and then go down to this corner here and hit set. And then just repeat exactly on the other side. And then in the corner here, and then down on the side here as far as my machine will go. And then finally over here in the crease. All right, so now that's going to tell my system where I want my feathers to go, and now I'm going to design the feathers. Now, the benefit of this is now I might not piece everything completely straight, so I'm going to click my connect markers, and I'm just going to click, 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 just like this. It doesn't matter that this is going out of my safe area because we're not really going to stitch this. And now I'm going to say, okay, the green check mark. Once we have this, I can start building my feathers. And I have 80258-03 and 80258-05. And these are Amanda Murphy feathers that are available through OESD or embroideryonline.com. So I'm going to double click my corner to put it in my design area, and I'm going to double click the border here and put that in my design area. Now, one thing I like to do to make sure that these are going to be proportionate and nice and everything is I'm going to go ahead and link these together. So I'm going to hit the link button here on my screen and the link button here. But before I do that, I want to get my little design right here into position perfectly, just like that. So now what I'm going to do is link and OK, green check mark. And so even though this is larger, this is going to allow me to take my two elements. That's all I'm using in this border is this turn is going to be on the corners, and this is going to be the piece that goes in all of the longer border areas, whether it's horizontal or vertical. So now I'm going to click this together and put it right up here in the corner, and I'm going to my enlarge and reduce icon. I'm going to use my screen. I'm going to maintain my ratio, and I'm just going to simply click this little green arrow there. Oopsie. And see if I like that size. And that's a little too big, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to readjust just a little bit and move this into position. And now my blue lines are right in the seam of my border, so you can see here I can probably go just a little bit smaller. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. That leaves me a little wiggle room there in the edges of my border, and now it's just perfect. So I'm going to take this and make a copy, and then I'm going to rotate it, and then I'm going to put it here in the corner just like so. Oh, I love it. Perfect. Okay, so then I want to take this and I want to unlink it. So I'm going to ungroup, and now that lets me have these things in different positions now. So now I'm going to add, let's do 4 repeats here. And I'm going to squeeze this into position just there. And you can see here that it's not fitting exactly the way that I would like it to. So I have a couple of options. I can take it and I can enlarge it disproportionately. So now I can kind of take it and stretch it over here like this and see what it's going to look like. And if I like it, this is kind of like the lazy person's way to do things, but I'm not going to lie, I'm lazy. And I actually don't have a problem with that. And so another way for me would be to disproportionately squeeze it some other way. But I'm actually happy with the way that this turned out. So now that this is like that, I'm going to unlink this one. And I'm just going to put this over here to the side. So there is my top piece that I'm going to stitch out. So I'm using Metler 40 weight, 100% cotton silk finish on here. And this is a panel that we just put together with a thinner border and an outer border. And just for fun, we thought we would do some other custom quilting here. So these little lines here are going to indicate some other things that we're going to do to this panel. But I always like to quilt from the top of the quilt down, and I don't measure my quilt ahead of time to really, I don't plan the quilt, whole quilt, and then go to stitch it out, only because honestly, once the quilt gets on here, sometimes things wiggle, they shift a little bit out of position. Sometimes we have some beginners that sew for us and their things cannot always be perfectly straight. So I do this method. Now there are so many of you, and you know, BERNINA at their Creative Center, they teach classes where you plan your whole quilt and then you work row by row on it. That's completely fine. I want you to know that exactly. But this is just another method that you can think of using, especially for those of you that might be quilting on new quilters projects. Let's have a little discussion about right here. I got a little close to the edge there. So when you are putting your markers down for the perimeter, a solution to get away from this issue would have been for me to maybe draw like a little registration line, the width of my binding away from here, and then dropped my markers down there so I wouldn't be going into that area. But you know, this is just a cute little project that we're doing. I'm not going to worry about this going into the museum, but I just wanted to show you that, you know, some people aren't going to mind if that gets kind of chopped off into the binding. But as I go down on the quilt here into further areas here, I'm probably going to just nudge this over just a little bit so that you know, I'm more than 1/4 of an inch in from the edge there. And here's a little tip for these little pink grippers that I have here. So I didn't pin my quilt onto the bottom leader here, which is the top leader. I actually used these little snaps. And when you put the snaps on, the tendency for you is to kind of put them in this way like that. But you want to be able for everything to be super flat. And if you look here, this is pushing it down too far. So you want to tilt these little grippers back a little bit so that you still maintain that flat surface like that. All right, so I'm going to take these off now, and I'm going to crank my quilt up just a little bit. I'm going to show you how to put in a motif and cut it. So I rolled the quilt, and this is my center mark here. So I am going to drop a marker here. I'm going to drop a marker on another center point here on this and in here, and this is all so that I can see how my little motifs are going to go on with these circles framing them. I'm going to delete my frame here. I don't need it. I'm going to clear my markers. Don't need those. And then I'm going to take my pieces here and just kind of move them aside for right now. And now we're going to go back and put our markers into place on those markings that I just showed you. I'm not going to connect these borders, but I am going to take my design, which is this one, rotate it 45 degrees like this. Then I'm going to put it into place right here like this. And these markers are going to kind of determine if this is the right size or the wrong size or whatever. And let's just have a check. Right now I'm moving my sew head to the very edge of the little wreaths of this design, and I actually think I want to reduce the size of this just a little bit. So I'm going to go to my reduce button. And if this is 11.29 by 11.31, I'm just going to go make it 11. So I'm going to use the keyboard here and type in there and write 11, and I'm maintaining the ratio, and then I hit OK, and then now I'm going to hit apply and OK. And now I kind of like the way that looks now, so I'm okay with that. Then I'm going to make a copy. And then I want one copy to kind of be like right here, like this. And then I want another copy that's going to go over here, like this. And then another copy that goes here, about like that. And then another copy that goes here, about like that, and another copy. It's going to go just about like that. Okay, so now I know that these are all out of the safe area and everything, but what I'm going to do with this is we're going to cut it, and we're just going to use our screen, and we're going to do that horizontally, and I'm going to cut that right here at my marker and say OK. And I'm going to do that with this whole top row. And now with these, I also want to cut them on the sides. So I'm going to cut it vertically and invert. There we go. I like that. Let's select this one and do the same thing. Vertical and invert, and touch my marker. Right. There we go. And now over here on this side, This time when we cut, we're going to do vertical, but not invert it. There we go. Maybe I want to get more over here on the tip. And then one last time here. Here we go. All right, so now I just want to cue them up. And I'm going to DQ all and then select. And now it's going to stitch them out in this order. And I'm ready to go. All right, I've been playing around a little bit with our piece here. And what I did is I set my markers for the inner border, and then I picked this little vine. And I'm just going to quickly show you how I did that. I picked a vine, I rotated it until I got it kind of the way I liked it, but then I needed it to stand a little straighter, so I grabbed one of the little handles and I rotated it so it was straight like that. Then I said, okay. Then I added a few extras and saw, wait a minute, that's not that straight. So then I went back and I wiggled it back into position here, and I used these little handles, and I'm using a mouse right now to get this, just like that. Then I made a copy, and then I took that copy, I mirrored it, and then I rotated it 90 degrees counterclockwise. Then I joined it together, reversed stitched it, and then linked it with the other piece. So now this is one unit together that can be resized to fit within our corner. And if you needed to resize it right on screen, you can just do that very easily. And then we could have more on one side and less on the other, or whatever the case is. But to your liking, that's how you could do turning a border on something that's not made to be a miter. I'm going to do a little bit of ruler work quilting in here, and I've got my Amanda Murphy good measure 2.5 inch circle and 7 inch circle, and the 7 inch seems to be going to do the trick. I just want to do like a little circle there. On my Q24 here, I use the 96 ruler work foot, but I keep my cup clip on there, and I just kind of like to leave that on there. And this month, the Bernina foot of the month is 72S. Now, you might have a 72 and be like, well, I want a 72S now, but let me give you a little bit of a tour of why you might want all of these feet. For instance, I kind of got lucky with this 7 inch ruler here that it fits in my little panel designs, but what if I needed something just a little bit in between? What if I needed 6.5? Well, this is the 6 inch ruler here. You might be familiar with the Echo quilting clips, which are these guys here. So this is gonna add a 1/2 inch. So that's when I would use my original number 72 foot and then add Echo clip onto the bottom of that. And then that way I could have like this one dedicated for my Echo clips, and then use my one for the slit for my straight up ruler work quilting. And then I can then have my 96 available for my cup clip. And don't forget that you can also put your couching inserts into this as well. So save your 72 foot for those special accessories like that. Now, with my 72S, and why this one is wonderful, is that the 72S has that little slit. So what I can do is go ahead and add this on here. I can put my foot on just like you see right here. And then I can just take my thread and piece it right under there, just like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to go around my circle template, and I'm going to hold that into place nicely. And these rulers have that nice little grippy stuff on the bottom of them. And so here we go. I'm going to start with my thread up, pull my bobbin thread up through so it's nice and pretty, and then line this guy up in the center just so nicely. So here we go. Now, here's an example of why we may want a slit foot. So what we're going to do is I'm going to raise my needle out of this material, and this technique works regardless if you're doing a sit down on your Bernina 770 plus or an 880 plus or whatever. You're going to raise that foot, raise that needle, and now I want to change to my micro stippling foot because I want to do stippling around my bear. So I'm going to plop this foot off. I haven't broken my thread. I can literally pull that foot off right with that thread going right through the slit. Then I can put my foot back on, put my foot down. I'm going to pull my thread up a little bit to give it some tension, and there, I've changed my foot without breaking the thread or knotting it off or anything like that. And I think this is one of the most amazing things about this foot. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started here, and I'm going to go around. And do some of my quilting. And then once you've gone around your bear or whatever it is with your micro stippling and everything, and then you have ended and you've just knotted your thread in one spot. So I'm going to go ahead and pick my needle out of here, and then I'm going to put my ruler work foot back on here, and I'm going to slide that around just like that, place this down, and now I'm ready to hop on over and do my next piece here with my same ruler and everything. Line up my ruler. I'm trying not to push it against this ruler, but gently line it up, reposition. And then once I get to the end there, I'll stop, put my needle down, and then change out my foot. I just have more visibility with this micro stippling foot than I do if I would try to do this with the number 72S ruler foot. I've done all of my ruler working and stuff like that, and I'm ready to come back here to my design. So what I want to do is take my design here and kind of line it up where it's already stitched. So I'm going to move my sew head to like a point on here just so I have some sort of point of reference for this design. So now I've moved that into position, and now I'm going to take my side piece and rotate it 90 degrees. And now I'm going to line it up into position, and I can see that that's outside of my safe area. So I'm going to have to move my frame just a little bit so that this can bounce into position better. Okay, this is going to work out a little bit better. So I'm going to move this out of the way and move this back down into position. Just there. And sometimes I have to use my little arrows down here to get things exactly the way I want. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to line this up here just like before. Just like we did at the top, you might recognize this. But what I want to do this time is minus a couple of these repeats because I want to try to make my bits a little bit less noticeable in here. So I want that to stitch just like that. And remember last time I talked about how I didn't want it butted up as close to the edge of my quilt there. So I'm going to go ahead and just squeeze this in. I'm undoing the maintain ratio and I'm just going to make this just a wee bit smaller. And nobody's going to notice that at all, but it's just a way for me to bounce it down just a little bit like that. Okay, I'm happy with that. And now I've moved my sew head over here so that I can put this piece into position just the way I like it. And so now I can take this piece and put it into position just like so. That looks really good. But it's also looking like I need to narrow this one just a little bit as well. So I'm going to undo that maintain ratio and I'm just going to make this go a little bit skinnier, just like that. So I've got a little bit more space on that side. So that looks really good to me. So I'm happy with that, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch these two pieces out now. So you can see here our little adjustment looks better. I'm happy with that. So now you can see that you need to be mindful of that too. But everything is looking pretty good. It's stitching nicely. I like the way that this thread looks. And one more thing to keep in mind is after you do your micro stippling, make sure you stitch your Bernina stitch regulator length back to 10 stitches per inch or your preferred for the Q-matic, because I had to turn it down just so I could do those little itty bitty stipples like that. However, if you forget to turn it back when you start your feathers, you get tiny stitches, so we don't necessarily want that. So just be mindful of that. It's something that, you don't always think about if you're just using only Q-matic, but when you're going back and forth from automated to hand guided, you need to be mindful of those things. Also, I usually need to be reminded to remove my ruler work table because, that adjusts how much sewing field that you have as well. All right, so I'm ready to line up another feather, and this is my halfway mark right here. And so I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to stop on the border for just a little bit. But of course, I'm going to finish. I'm going to do my ruler work thing here, and then my stippling around the fox and the deer. And then I'm going to add another one of these pieces right in the center there. Just rinse and repeat what you just saw me do. But then eventually I'm going to get to the end and I'm going to flip that top feather border and this border when we get down here to this point. And then what I'll do is I will make some designs then that will kind of fill in this area. And I might have to tweak just a little bit, but nobody will know. Only you and I. Only you and me will know that we made those little decisions. Okay, so I went ahead and did my markers here as you can see them. And now, just for fun, I'm going to bring in some fresh corner pieces here. So I need to rotate this around. Like this. And that one's going to go into this corner. Then I'm going to bring another one in, and then that one is going to get rotated this way, and that's going to go into this corner. So I'm going to do my little resizing. So I can place that just right, and I need to resize it just a little bit more. And then do the other one. Okay, then I'm going to bring in this piece, and I know from above I need 3 of them, so there it is. And then I do need to rotate it around like that. And then I'm going to proportionately or disproportionately tweak it. And we'll start there, see how that goes. Oh yeah, we need to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to use my arrows on my keyboard to kind of straighten it up here a little bit. Okay. Then I'm going to move this guy into position just so. And now what I want to do is link this together. Oh, but see what's happening there? That's not working so well. So what I need to do is reverse sew on these pieces. And now I'm going to link them together. There we go. And then I'm going to just do a little bit of wiggling because my bottom piece got just a little higgledy-piggledy. So I'm just going to do just a few little tweaks there. And I can move this up a wee bit here. All right, I'm happy with that. So now I'm ready to see if I can line something up over here on the side. Okay, so I've stitched this out and I've moved my frame just a little bit. I've cranked down my quilt so I can put a new feather section like this into place. And I'm going to rotate this. And then I'm going to reduce the size a little bit. And then I can probably make that a wee bit larger. Oh, I can make it even larger than that. And when I need to just bump something a little bit, I use my arrows down here, and I like that. So that's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is take this and make a copy, and then I'm going to rotate this one so it's going in that direction, and we're going to move it over here to this side. And this side was, you know, I had been just altering this based on my borders here that weren't necessarily perfect. All right, I'm good with that. All right, so now I'm going to stitch these 2 pieces out. So what I need to do is DQ all and then simply select my side pieces here. And now I'm ready to stitch it out. So I just flipped the little inner border piece and just mirrored what I did at the top. It hasn't stitched over here yet, but you can see how nicely my design here matched up and I had moved it, you know, away from that border. I had to make a little bit of adjustments here because my last piece down here, I didn't piece this. And hey, listen, even if I would have, this got like a little bowed. So I had to do some rearranging down here on how these pieces went together. But at the end of the day, once this is all connected and everything, you are not gonna notice my little shifts that I had to do. And I think you're gonna find that you have to make some of those adjustments when you quilt your own work, and certainly people that have different skill levels. Okay, so now it's time for us to add another piece that goes in between. And I am going to take this piece here and make a copy and place it where my other piece stitched out. Now I want to rotate this piece, and then I'm going to reduce it so it looks better here. So I'm going to maintain my ratio for right now and move that in here. You can see it needs to be a little bit different. So I'm going to uncheck the maintain ratio, and now I'm going to thin it up and elongate it just like that. And that looks pretty good. The only thing is I might want to just make it a wee bit narrower. So I keep the length, but I'm just going to make it just a wee bit narrower like that, and then tweak it into position. All right, perfect. And so now I'm going to stitch that out. All right, so once that's stitched out, I'm going to kind of repeat the same thing here, only this time I have to crank up my frame a little bit. Okay, so now my other design has stitched like right about there, just like that. So now my other design is stitched there, just like that, and here's my previous design. So I want to make a copy, and I want to place this into here like that. So I actually have to go over, and we're going to make this smaller again. And we're going to place this into position. And I think I'm going to undo my maintain proportions here. And now let's see if that looks good when I get it into position. And it does. So now I'm going to stitch this one out. So I just flipped the little inner border piece and just mirrored what I did at the top. It hasn't stitched over here yet, but you can see how nicely my design here matched up, and I had moved it, you know, away from that border. I had to make a little bit of adjustments here because my last piece down here, I didn't piece this. And hey, listen, even if I would have, this got like a little bowed. So I had to do some rearranging down here on how these pieces went together. But at the end of the day, once this is all connected and everything, you are not going to notice my little shifts that I had to do. And I think you're going to find that you have to make some of those adjustments when you quilt your own work, and certainly people that have different skill levels. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you're not terribly offended by my unorthodox methods. And if you want to see more videos like this and more tutorials, don't forget to check out our Bernina of Naperville YouTube channel. It's easy. It's youtube.com/Bernina of Naperville, and there you can like, comment, and subscribe. Happy quilting!